Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are now live and trust and believe that it is on and popping before we even went live. So, ladies and gentlemen, you are in for an absolutely phenomenal show. Welcome to a conversation with Floyd Marshall Jr., and I am your humble host. And today I am joined by three exceptional women and titans in the independent and Hollywood film industry. It is my absolute pleasure to bring to you today Miss Emelyn Stewart, Mrs. Roni Davis, and Ms. Cheryl L. Bedford. And I'm just going to give you guys a very slight introduction because otherwise we would be here all day introducing the amazing talent that we have on the stage. Emelyn Stewart is the founder of the Ocktober Film Festival in Brooklyn, New York, and she is also the founder of the Stewart Cinema Cafe in New York, the first major movie theater owned by a Latina. Okay, so that's how we rocking out here. Roni Davis is the co-founder of Black Love Exists, and she is also the co-founder of the amazing, and if you have not seen it, please go see it. Tough Love series, Tough Love Atlanta, Tough Love Los Angeles. Which Tough Love am I leaving out, Roni? Because I know I'm leaving one out.
You're leaving out the just tough love. So it started out as just tough love, but it was based in New York.
And see, in New York, and that's how I actually came across her because my wife and I actually binge watched that series, and we were like, oh, we definitely got to watch some more. And last but not least, the incomparable Auntie Cheryl L. Bedford, founder of Women of Color Unite, also
Mm.
founder of Start with Eight mentorship program, which I had the privilege of being a part. It is an absolutely amazing organization, and she is also the founder of the JTC List. And the reason that I brought this powerhouse bevy of women together tonight is because I'm sure if you're in this industry, a little over a month ago, we all saw the interview with Taraji P. Henson talking about the disparity in pay when it came to women of color in the industry. And I was sitting there watching that, and I'm saying to myself, okay, here we have a veteran actress, a phenomenal veteran actress, an actress with $3 billion of generated revenue in the
Mhm.
industry to her name, and she is complaining about being underpaid. So I said, I want to do a podcast because if Taraji P. Henson is dealing with this issue, I am more than sure there are people that are not at her level at her level or above her level that are dealing with the same thing. So I said, well, you know what? Who can I really talk to about this? So I wanted to bring in three founders and owners of businesses in the Black film space to get their perspective on the film industry. And I just want to share something with everyone really quickly. Um, Before I have these phenomenal women introduce themselves. Now, it says in Taraji P. Henson's 23-year career, she has grossed over $3 billion in the box office and has earned several awards for her talent. In 2015, she won a Critics' Choice Award for Empire, and yet she is still undervalued and underpaid. And it says, first of all, let me tell you where I'm getting this from. This article is The Math Ain't Mathing by Brittany Williams, and she did this article in February of 2024. Now, the National Partnership research shows that Black actresses typically make 64 cents for every dollar white non Hispanic actors make. Black women directors and producers make just 68 cents compared to their white non Hispanic men counterparts. Even though these gaps are within occupation, they are as nearly as large as the overall wage gaps for women overall. So, with that, ladies, this is a problem that has been talked about and talked about and talked about ad nauseum. We thought we were making progress with everything as far as the DEI initiatives, and we kind of see where that is going. But before we get into that, just tell everybody, we're going to go popcorn style. Just tell everyone a little bit about yourselves and what you have going on now in your different endeavors and your different organizations, and then we're going to get right into the media that matters. So we can start with Emelyn.
Sure. Thank you for having me. This is so much fun. So I am Emelyn Stewart. I'm the first Black Latina to own a movie theater, an independent movie theater in New York. Um, I'm in New York. You can, can't hide. I'm definitely in the city. And so I am in the process of trying to open other small theaters in New York and in other areas. I am trying to launch a business school for artists because I feel that's what's missing, right? Is understanding the business. And this conversation is very important to that because sometimes we are getting gypped, but it's because we don't understand business. We don't understand money and currency. So that's just, some of the stuff I have going on.
Oh, she'll be
Oh,
back. She'll be back, hopefully. Ms. Bedford.
I don't know where to begin. It's regarding DEI and so forth and so on. So everything that we do at Women of Color Unite. So first of all, the JTC list came first. It's named after my mother, Joan Teresa Curtis. It was a database, still is a database of women of color above and below the line. And then after we created that, we actually became a 501c3. Women of Color Unite was born later on that year. Start with Eight is our mentorship fellowship program. We have connected almost 1,700 women of color in 3 countries. We obviously skipped last year because of the strikes. So I'm very passionate about what I do, but I really like to tell people that everything we do is data driven, statistically driven. So when we get into the Taraji thing, and I was the one who sent you because I was just looking back, Floyd, and I sent you all the screenshots when Franklin Leonard and I were
Yes.
discussing it on Twitter. This, let me just say this: none of this is new, and it really is sad that it took someone like Taraji, because just so you ladies know, when we first started, my mother was a statistician and an activist, so that's where I get it from. But when we first started, we do surveys every year. Manon's actually about to do our survey for 2022, and we were the first group to recognize that 44% of women of color leave the entertainment industry after 10 years because they don't hit a glass ceiling, it's concrete. 44%. So I'm the person who tends to push back, like Tyler Perry was at TIFF and he was talking about we need to be more educated. We're out there. We just leave because after 10 years, you're like, I'm going to give up because it's not a glass ceiling, it's a concrete one. So those who get through it, like Taraji, right? Now let's talk about all of the other things that then come into play if you happen to be part of that 56% that actually continues on, right? And that's what Franklin and I were discussing. And one of my biggest problems is that all of our stats are on our website. Did you know that? All of them. Everything. We were the first to realize that it is not an education problem, it is a union problem. So we broke down all the unions and how many women of color in the unions. That number is hella low. And then from there, like I was telling Leonard, he's like, well, what do you do with those stats? And I was like, you work backwards. So you go back and you read these various contracts. And one of the biggest problems is that the days to get your union days, to get into the union, they don't include a lot of the content that Black, Brown, Indigenous, those from lower socioeconomic families, that they do, right? So if you're shooting something on an iPhone, those days don't count towards your union days if you're doing sound, if you're doing hair, if you're doing makeup. So it's a very antiquated way to get into the union. So I just wanted to start off this conversation because data drives everything that we do. And it actually shows us what is wrong when you work backwards. And a lot of times it's the way to get into the unions because it doesn't include like YouTube content. It doesn't include. So Of course, if you have this wonderful person who is doing, I'll give you a perfect for instance, Venus Leon. She is an Afro-Latinx sound person. It normally takes 3 years of working to get into that union. It took her 6.
Mm.
So I just wanted to start off by giving a lot of context to what Taraji is talking about, because it's not just anecdotal. There are a lot of statistics to back it up. Sorry, I know I took a minute, but I just
No, no,
wanted
no,
to
no,
give an
because
overview.
that's going to. I have some questions about that, but let's get to Miss Roni Davis. How's that phone working out for you?
It's a bit of a, anytime someone calls, it cuts me out. Ugh,
Oh
I just
wow.
wish I could be on my computer. I don't know why. Cheryl, we're just getting started. You already got me fired up. I'm Roni Davis. I am the co-founder of Creative Direction Group, which is the production company behind our Tough Love series. So my husband and I are the creators of Tough Love. It's a scripted drama series, half an hour, and we started with 3 seasons in New York. Did a spin-off series called Pillow Talk, which was licensed to BET Plus, and then did a spinoff of Tough Love, and we did Tough Love Los Angeles and Atlanta, which can be seen on Clio TV, TV One sister network. And we create independently. We create all of our content on our own, and we license it to these networks. And we would love to do co-productions and things of that nature, and we're working on those. But as you guys know, it's just really tough. And so, because of it's so tough, we don't wait on anyone. We just create it independently and then have them pick it up later.
Wow. So actually, it's amazing. The three of you are meeting for the first time. You've never met, but at the core of everything the three of you had just said, it all ties in. Emelyn, you're talking about business. Cheryl, you're talking about data. Roni, you talked about how tough it is, and it's tough because of all of those things that you guys just mentioned. The barrier to getting in the union. If you're creating a piece of content, oh, that piece of content, oh, that doesn't count. And then people not understanding the business aspect of this, knowing that that piece of content doesn't count. But then that also speaks to the educational part, and then it kind of funnels to Roni, the fact that the people aren't educated on this particular thing, so they're not knowing, so they really don't know how to navigate it. So can you three ladies talk about some of the things that you do as Black owners in this space to kind of deal with those issues and to overcome those issues, so people won't have to take 6 years to get in the union, or someone can become business savvy so they can start their own business, and to also be able to go into a co-production endeavor with someone. So can you ladies talk about that? Popcorn style, doesn't matter who goes first.
We're all silent. I'll go. I'll go first, only because it's statistically driven, right? So when we talk about making content, when we talk about getting funding, um, it really is convincing the stewards who hold the purse strings, who are normally white. Let's just be honest, right? Here's the one thing that I would tell any creative or anybody walking into a room: they are no smarter than you are. So I never walk into a room like I am there on a humble. In the state of California, when a company is run by a woman of color, profits go up by as much as 30%. We're the only ones who don't need a DEI department because we hire the way the world looks. So I got a question. How come there are a bunch of white men running shit? When we know that Roni or Emily or I running it, that company is actually going to make money, more money. So I always go in with the mindset of white trumps green, because we have been told over and over and over again, well, it's really about money. See, it's actually about money. You have to make sure that your project has money. That's bullshit. It's a crack of life. It's part of white supremacy, right? And it has to do with moving the goalposts. So it actually doesn't have to do it, because we know that the industry leaves $10 billion a year on the table when it comes to Black content. We don't have numbers regarding Latinx. We don't have, but you know what we also have? We also have the numbers for the disability community, because 1 in 4 Americans has a visible or invisible disability. So you know how much money they leave on the table? Between 400 billion and 1 trillion a year. These people are no smarter than anybody else. They just have the privilege, right? But they actually aren't. So I never walk into the room. I walk into the room like the only reason you're on that side of the table and I'm on this one is because the intersectionality of racism and sexism. Then you get into things like colorism, ableism, ageism, homophobia, transphobia, fat phobia, and sizeism, like all of these things. And the more intersectional you are, the more perfect people expect you to be. And that is actually very damaging to our mental health, right? That's why I don't believe in imposter syndrome. I think imposter syndrome is just that intersectionality where we're told we have to be perfect, right? I don't believe in that at all. So I just wanted to give context to when people hear Emelyn talking about, her experiences raising money or Roni's experience raising money, to understand they're probably the best of what they do. It's just people can't see it. They move the goalpost because white trumps green.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Cheryl. What I'm hearing a lot lately is that the issue with our content being funded is that we just don't have enough people watching. And that the reason that is because how we can, turn on a movie or a show that is like centered around white people easily and just watch it. They do not watch shows that are centered around us. If they are not at the center, they're not interested. So because of that, the numbers are lower and they don't want to pay for it.
It's not true. That's marketing.
That's not true.
Yeah, that's absolutely not true. The numbers don't support it. As a matter of fact, there have been studies that say that white people enjoy Black content as much as Black people enjoy white content. Like the studies, and that again, because all of these are feelings that people have. So I'm very much a fuck your feelings kind of person. And so I deal but I tell people fuck your feelings, but fuck mine too, right?
Right.
I don't go in there dealing in feeling. I go in there dealing in data, statistics, analysis. So what you've been told is just a lie, but it's a lie a lot of people believe. This idea that our content doesn't sell overseas, all of that is a lie. And it is a lie to keep us crabs in a barrel, right? D.L. Hughley once said, if you don't want us to be crabs in a barrel, stop putting us in a barrel.
Mm-hmm.
So all of these things work for us to claw at each other. And I know I'm talking a lot. I'm just going to tell a quick story and then I'll shut the fuck up. I have a BFA from NYU Film School and an MFA from the American Film Institute. When I went to NYU, it was the #1 film school in the country. When I went to AFI, it was the #1 film school in the country. So at the time, there was no internet. You get your resume together and you send it off, right? My name is Cheryl L. Bedford. I live in Los Angeles. Nobody expected this to walk in. Not a goddamn body. Don't remember the first, but I remember the last interview I walked in on, and they didn't give me the interview. It would happen. They would hand me one of those application for one of the DEI programs. I need people to understand this shit's been around a really long time, and I graduated from AFI in 1993. And I remember it, it was Disney. They handed it to me. I didn't get the interview. And I looked at it as I was walking to my car. And I ripped that the fuck up. And I said, here's the thing. You will never, ever, ever get me to fight my own people. I'm not fighting Roni or Emelyn or anybody else for those crumbs. Fuck your crumbs. I want the whole goddamn pie. And I became an independent producer. Like it was that moment for me. And I thought to myself, if I could ever change this industry, cut to now we're the largest nonprofit of women of color in entertainment. I advise studios. I curse out C-suites. Like, I don't let people put us in a barrel. I fight that every day. And so I need people to understand, to stop putting us in a barrel. You will never, ever make me fight Roni for some crumbs. Fuck your crumbs. I want the whole goddamn pie.
I'm going to have to include the NC-17 rating on this podcast when we're done.
Dark version.
But you know what? It is what it is. And you know what? I bet you if Taraji listens to this, Taraji, I'm talking to you.
Mm-hmm.
Taraji and the other ladies and the men for that matter, because we're going to do one on men as well, because they face the same problems. They're going to be sitting there shaking their heads because, you know, Roni, what you alluded to, the fact that they're saying, oh, well, the numbers aren't there. And it's interesting. They always say, you know, the numbers aren't there. They told Emelyn, well, no Latinas should be opening in a movie theater. And no, that doesn't happen. But then you turn around and you see a Wakanda Forever happen. You see how, you know, African-American content is doing extremely well on streaming platforms, Tubi to name one. Roni, you see how, you know, your content ain't shabby at all. And I think oftentimes, and it goes back to what we've been talking about, is the lack of education. Because if this is not something that you're looking for, you're going to swallow that, because they're going to say, you're going to be like, oh, okay, okay. If you're not someone who says, well, let me look into that a little bit, then you're going to basically take people at their word. Emelyn, I want to talk to you really quickly about the journey that you took starting your theater and the hurdles that you had to, you know, go over in order to get that thing started, because it's a fascinating story. And it ties into this again, because ladies and gentlemen, it's always not about the fact that they're not paying someone. It's the fact that they don't want to give you any money to have something happen. So Emelyn, talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I was listening to Cheryl and I'm over here going, hallelujah, absolutely. Because I am absolutely living proof of that. I had been producing for a decade. So I know how to find money, right? And so, but when it was time to open this theater, they just did not see it. They couldn't see it. It didn't matter what my business plan said. It didn't matter how much of the money. I mean, I was putting up 50%. So I was only looking for 50% at the time. And I couldn't even get that. I had to self-fund the theater. I built a movie theater with my own money. I liquidated. You know why? Because I wanted the whole pie. Because why can I not have the whole pie? Why do I have to settle? And I had already been, when you said 10 years, I said I had already been producing for 10 years, but I kept running up against this wall where I was being told that there was no audience for my content. And therefore, the game was over. So you can either put it on YouTube or whatever. And I was like, well, why does he get to decide? Why does he get to decide? I want to decide. How do we do this so I can decide what people watch? And somebody said, you got to build your own movie theater. And so when you take ownership of the fact that you deserve the whole pie, then you operate in a manner that lets you get that whole pie, because everything that you do is about that. And so that I can definitely relate to that for sure, because that was part of the struggle that I had was, but I feel, and I tell this to people I mentor all the time, you have to believe that you belong in the room. You have to believe that the whole pie should be yours. And walking away is not the answer. So maybe I cannot build a multiplex theater with 10 screens. Maybe I can only build one with one screen. But we're going to start somewhere, and it's mine. And I have fixed the problem of being able to control content. And that was the issue. And so building the school is about that. It's about, I see that there is a lack of understanding. A lot of what Cheryl said, I know actors don't know. But where do they even, who's going to tell them that they need this information? The people who don't want you to have it? Why would they do that? And so what you're doing, by the way, Floyd, is super important. And ladies, thank you for taking the time, because this is, and the journey continues. So I self-funded the theater, and now I'm ready to build a multiplex, right? But now I go back to the bank and I say, hey, bank, I have this profitable business. I built it. I showed that I can do this. I used my own money to do it. Now they say, well, we can't give you a loan because we don't know if you could pay it back because you don't have any debt. Talk about moving the goalpost. I'm like, what? So now I had to go into debt to prove that I could pay. So I have to get a line of credit that I don't need to prove that I can pay, in the hopes that I will get the loan. And so I feel like we just, but I cannot give up. And so however it happens, it's coming. But why do I have to go through that? You said if I could show a profit, that then I could get this other loan. So now I'm showing a profit, use my own money, bet everything on myself, and still now there's another issue.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so I can go on with countless examples of how, I was about to say a curse word.
Wow. But you know what? That's interesting, because credit card companies work that way. They tell you, pay down your debt, pay down your debt, pay down your debt, pay down your debt, right? And as soon as you pay down your debt, what do you get in the mail? That offer, we have this 0 interest credit card with a $15,000 limit, and we'd love for you to have it. And you're like, boy, you just told me to pay it off, and now you're offering me and my wife said, they're like, you just told us to pay these things off, and then you're sitting here offering us more. But I think it's how they keep you on that hamster wheel.
Sure.
It's how they keep you on the hamster wheel. Pay off the debt, but you don't have any debt. So I don't know if you're someone that I can trust with my money. Well, if you look at my past track record of all
Right.
that money that I paid you back, that should be an indicator of the fact that I pay my bills and I pay them on time. But again, I think that's something that is definitely targeted towards us, because a situation like that happens. Everyone doesn't have Emelyn Stewart's fortitude to say, I see what you're doing and I'm not going to allow you to do it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to play your game. I'm going to get that line of credit. I'm going to show you that better than I can tell you. And then I'll be back at the table. And then when you go back, the goalpost will move again. But we understand that. But Roni, really quickly, you talked about co-producing. Can you go into that a little deeper, and where you and your phenomenal husband are running into problems, if you're running into problems with that, and how it's affecting what you guys are trying to do, or is it affecting it at all?
Yeah, so what happens a lot of times is we take different meetings, we'll get certain processes started with different networks and different production companies, and we're looking for someone else to put up the money for us to create this content. A lot of times we can't find that. And that's been happening. We've been creating since 2015, so it's been almost 10 years on our end. And so again, what we do, what we all do, and just create independently, because like you said, we can't give up, right? So we keep pushing. And so what we have found who has invested in us is, different Black executives that we've come across at these Black networks like BET Plus and Clio TV. And we work out the licensing deals. And so we fund it up front ourselves, and then we make money on the back end once we've already created it. And it's tough because it's not industry standard. And so we're working still with very low budgets. But we get lots of compliments on our content as far as It looks really good. It looks like we spent more money than we did, but that's just something where part of us, we're like, okay, we want to get there. We want to get there to where we use OPM, use other people's money in advance. But then we see all these stories of people's shows getting canceled and things being in other people's hands, and all of the different notes people get, and other execs and stuff coming to take over the content. And then we're like, I don't know if we want to work toward this, because we still have creative control. We still have our content, and we take it to different networks. When it's done with this one, we get it back. We can take it to others. And so we have a lot of the control. And so we're like, is what we're working to, once we get there, is it going to be what we truly want? But then again, we are like, we need bigger budgets to create these bigger shows we want to create. So we're very blessed, because we're able to, like, we just wrapped season 2 of Tough Love Atlanta. We were able to bring on like over 50 staff, where we had a whole crew, and we were able to give lots of cast members opportunities, and a lot of people want to work with us. So we're blessed for what we're able to do at this level. But of course, we want to grow and enhance in a lot of ways as well.
You know what else too, about that, Roni, is that process that we have to do, we have to keep reinvesting our own money, right? And we have to keep reinvesting profit. So it takes us longer to build wealth, because we don't get to have a lot of liquid assets, right? So even when great opportunities to invest in something shows up, we can't do it, because our money has to keep recycling itself. Whereas I feel other people get infusions of fresh money. We have to take this money and keep spinning it. And as it grows, we're spinning it in a bigger way. But it's 100%. Still the same money. There's no outside money. And so I feel that definitely keeps us from, we can accumulate wealth, but it takes us that much longer.
So what you're both talking about is another study. You know me and studies.
Wow.
So and we can either wait for Roni to come back. I know she probably got a call, but so there's a study to say if there are 10 job qualifications that white men apply if they have 3, white women and men of color apply if they have 7, Black women and women of color don't apply unless they have all 10. And it's because it goes hand in hand with this one. When a white guy walks in, they see all of his potential. When a Black woman walks in, they see everything that is wrong with her. So if he has 3 job qualifications, they do mental gymnastics. Well, if he has 3, then that means that he could do 4, 5, and 6. Well, if he could do 6, that means he could do 7 and 8. And once he gets to that, of course, he can do 9 and 10. A Black woman walks in, she has 9 out of 10. They go, what is wrong with her? Why doesn't she have all 10? That's a specific mindset that permeates everything we do. So Emelyn walks in, she built that shit by herself. She funded that shit by herself. And the bank looks at her and goes, well, you don't have any credit line. And they're like, wait, what? So then she goes out, she has to get the credit because they walked in, and instead of seeing all of Emelyn's potential, they chose the one thing that they could see wrong with her. And I'm putting that in quotes, because there really isn't anything wrong with not having any debt, but they just did that to Emelyn. Like everything that I'm talking about, whether it's Roni or Emelyn, you could get a whole bunch of Black women and women of color on here, and every single one will have an anecdote that would back up the statistics, right? Because it happens so often. These are not just one-offs, right? So you were talking to Roni about her. Remember, I was sitting here thinking, thank God for my credit cards, because Woke You would not exist. Woke You has yet to be able to pay me back the $60,000 it owes me. And I thought I was done until the strikes hit. So then I watched all of our donations just plummet, because we were in the middle of the strikes. I have a question for who the fuck do you think carried Woke You? Who do you think paid for our bills? Who do you think paid for our insurance, our accountant, our attorney? Who do you think paid for?
Right.
While the strikes were going on. Now, people would tell me it's partly my fault because I don't charge our members for anything. I ask women of color to donate what you can, what you can, when you can, because of this. The white female-run organizations in Hollywood have one of the ways they have pushed us to the margins is financial. You already talked about the amount of money we make. Well, then if you belong to your organization.
Uh-oh. She froze. She'll be back, but until she comes back, this is a fascinating conversation. Oh, I can't wait for her to come back because
I know, and I could
I'm back.
actually hear
oh,
her.
she's back. She's
Okay.
back. Here she is. Okay,
Yeah,
this
I
is
don't
live,
know
ladies
what.
and gentlemen. This is live.
I have no idea what happened. I was about to look over my internet and go, internet, don't fail me now.
They're listening.
Yeah, so I was saying that, these white female-led organizations, they have fees for everything. And I remember that a friend of mine, when I was at AFI, took me to one of these Christmas parties, one of these networking events, right? And it was $50 back in the day. And this is like 1990, 91. You know how much $50 at the 99-cent store would get me for groceries? Like that was 2 weeks worth of shit. They wanted $50. A friend of mine paid. It was a great networking, but I realized then that a lot of these networking events that people have to pay for, the reason you don't see this is because of the fees, the amount of money. So the thing with us is we don't charge anything. Everything is a first come, first serve for all of our events. Sign up, start with 8, everything. And here's the other thing. I don't ask people to do any trauma essays. So some of these organizations, Women in Film, I'm looking at you. Oh yeah, you be very, I call people out because I believe this industry is run on the lack of transparency and the lack of accountability. So organizations like Women in Film will partner with somebody like us, right?
Mhm.
And then they'll be like, well, they will have one of their other members pay for like a year or something like that. Who wants to go someplace on a goddamn humble? And then you have to prove that you need it. No, yeah, y'all keep that. Right? As Dr. Cheryl Grill says in Dark Girls, I'm good. Y'all, you keep that. So we don't charge our members for anything. Even when they sign up for our mentorship program, you don't have to prove that you are worthy. You tell us what you need to get to the next level, and we match you with mentors who can help you do that. That's it. You don't have to prove your worth. You don't have to, save up money and scrape up money to come to any of our events. None of that. Now, because of that, we always broke. we always broke.
That's a $1 million question. I was like, and so how do you make money?
We
I was
don't.
like, how do I sign up?
No, we don't. Shout out to the city and the county of Los Angeles. Those have been our biggest grants. I stopped banging my head against a brick wall in Hollywood to see if it would work, because a lot of times the forms to fill out, everything you have, it takes so much time, so much energy, and it's only this small chance. Oh, you guys don't know. Women and girl of color run nonprofits in the United States only receive, wait for it, 0.5% of all grant and foundation money. 3 years ago, it was 2%, dropped to 1.6%. Now it's at 0.5%. There is, Ms. Foundation came out with that report. It's called Pocket Change in July of 2020. They have updated it November of 2023, and it's basically Pocket Change 2.0, and it talks about the mental health damage that is done. Now, this is specifically women of color and girl of color run nonprofits for women and girls or other marginalized people, because the money always goes to the white-led organizations who are gonna do something for the helpless little, I'm just gonna say it, helpless little Negroes, or the helpless little Latinx, or the helpless little ... So what they do is they trot us out, they get the money, they say that they're going to do something, and there are studies proving that it doesn't do a goddamn thing. It doesn't go where it's supposed to go. It doesn't help whom it's supposed to help. Because a lot of times, a lot of that money is taken up by like fees of paying people. And so it never gets to us. Ever. So I just want people to go read those. It's Pocket Change and Pocket Change 2.0 by the Ms. Foundation. Read it. And I tell people constantly donate to women and girl of color run nonprofits, because that report also says that we are expected to do much, much more than our well-founded counterparts, and we do. Here's the thing. I'm tired of being everybody's fucking mammy. I said what I said.
Yeah. So you know what? You just said something very interesting, because I think one of the things that we really have we really have to do, and this is one of the reasons, Cheryl, that I love your organization, is you're actually putting people in a position of strength. Roni and Emelyn, you guys are doing the same things, because I watch your IGs. When you're on set, Roni and Emelyn, I follow you very closely, and I think when we talk about wealth, gaining wealth, being able to pay our own what they should be paid, I think really, and this is just my opinion, and you guys can talk about it and give your perspective on it as well. But I think the only way this is really going to happen is if we do it for ourselves. And I think that one of the things that we keep doing is Charlie Brown and Lucy. We keep expecting Lucy to hold that football when we know in our heart of hearts she's going to yank it away. And I think oftentimes with the disparity in pay, the disparity in getting into the unions, the disparity in the writers' rooms, and we can go on and on and on. I think that we as Black people get a little too caught up in wanting them to hold that football and knowing that they're going to pull it away. And the fact that we have to start really doing and paying ourselves. And I know that sounds a little far-fetched, because a lot of times they control the purse strings with certain things within the industry. But in you guys' opinion, and you ladies' opinion, what are some of the ways that Black content creators can start to take control? And Roni, you're a perfect example of this. Can start to take control of their own destiny when it comes to putting out content and putting out phenomenal content, and at the same time being able to pay people what they're worth. And if you can't pay them what they're worth, because again, budgets are a little bit smaller, if you can't pay them what they're worth, how can you get as close to it as possible? How do we do that?
Well, I can answer the part about creating on our own. Social media, as we all know, is just a wonderful tool, and it's a tool that has helped us in a lot of ways. Specifically, YouTube and Instagram, we've been able to build up our subscribers and our views just from we don't get a marketing, but we don't have a marketing budget, and so we've been able to do that, build that viewership through social media. So that's always, the tool that a lot of people are told to use, and it does work. It is very hard, but it works. And then as far as paying people industry standard, I mean, our approach right now is continuing to create, but also we are on that other journey where we're submitting treatments, and we're having meetings, and we're hoping to get more funding, because it's just we're happy to pay people, but like you said, we want to pay them what they're worth. So we definitely need the increase in funds. Um, the independent route, it is it's incredible, but it also is like, I'm just like, how, when we have meetings with different people and we're getting them on board, I'm just tired of saying, but we can only pay you this. I would love to pay people exactly what they're worth, and pay myself what I'm worth as well.
Hey, Roni, I'm going to make you an offer right here and right now. So there are grants that are available for like the arts, like in California Arts has them. I'm sure Georgia has them. Your local, look into like that type of funding. And we, as a 501c3, we will serve as your fiscal sponsor, because you need a 501c3. Emelyn, same thing to you.
Thank
Anybody who wants
you.
to, same thing for you, Emelyn. Anybody who wants to invest in what you have and also can tax write off for it,
Yes.
Because so if you go to our website, you will see our mission statement is a bit more thorough than a lot. And we did that on purpose so that we could eventually serve as a fiscal sponsor. So one of the things is building up audiences. So both of you would qualify. So if you have somebody who wants to invest, if you have somebody who just wants to donate or anything like that, but wants a tax write-off, hit me up. We have a fiscal sponsorship agreement. We only take 7%. A lot of places will take 15 or 10. We only take 7, and that literally just goes to our cost of our attorney and our accountant and so forth and so on. We don't make anything off of it. So that is my offer for both of you, for what you specifically are building. I don't have, and I tell people this all the time. We don't have a lot, but what I got, I'm more than happy to share. So
Thank
for
you.
you,
Thank you,
Roni, for
Cheryl.
yeah,
Love
for any type of like arts, go, because like I said, the for us, it has been the city and the county of Los Angeles, right? And I don't think a lot of people realize within the arts they normally have grants like that, and also for Emelyn for building, right? Those types of things, and a lot of people don't necessarily think of it because they're like, well, I'm not a 501c3. Aha, but I am. And if you read my mission statement, both of you are covered under it.
I love that. You know,
Awesome.
as I was listening to Ronnie, that's really a struggle, right? Because if we don't pay our own people what they're worth, then we're part of the problem, right? And so it's difficult because we are climbing, and then we have to have people on our back as we're climbing, you know. And I know that I struggle with that, and sometimes I rather have less staff that's better paid than to have more staff that isn't paid what they're worth. But it is a struggle, and I know that when I was producing, that was a big challenge, right? Is we don't have the budget, but we have to get this done, and we know that, you know, so and so should make X, but we don't have it in the budget, right? And we hope that we'll sell it, make the money. But the good thing is, when you do sell it and you make that money, you can also circle back and give a thank you.
Absolutely.
We've done that, you know, with some of our projects, because, you know, it, and maybe they don't have to know, but you can always go back and say, here, thank you, because I couldn't have made this project without you, because this is a team sport. And that's the other thing, right? It's you have to have a team to create, then you have to have somewhere to sell it to be able to make money. So there's a lot of moving pieces. I certainly want to be part of the solution. And some days I just don't know what to do. Some days I'm like, oh my gosh, it's the problem seems so big. But I love that Cheryl breaks it down. She's like, this is why this is a problem, and this is why this is a problem, right? Because I think we instinctively know that there are issues, but we don't really even understand the severity of the issue till it happens to us. You know, there was so many things I didn't really understand about the entertainment industry, even though I had been producing for 10 years, till I got to this side. And now I'm dealing with studios. I'm dealing with all kinds of stuff, and the studios versus the streamers, and how we're dealing with that, and how the whole, you know, landscape of movie making and exhibition is changing. So, but I want to be part of the solution. So, and Cheryl, thank you for that, because that's something that people don't know, that you can have someone else be your sponsor when you're looking for a nonprofit grant. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and there are other, especially Black females who own nonprofit. We're not the only ones. I think Real Sisters does it out of Brooklyn. There are a few, or out of New York. There are more. A couple of film festivals who do it. We're not the only one by any stretch of the imagination. So, and I always tell people, go find whomever is in your area, give them their little 5%, 7%, 10%, whatever. Because here's the one thing that I do know: a win for Roni is a win for us. A win for Emelyn is a win for us. Dr. Kosul is saying said something very, and she said this to me a couple of weeks ago. She's our director of education, PhD in education, really good friend. And if you're follow her, she's is a dark girl on colorism on Instagram. she said something really that just sat with me. She said, you know, Cheryl, specifically for African Americans, she said, our strength is the fact that we are community. She said, if you think about it, in the bowels of slave ships, we didn't speak the same language. We didn't necessarily come from the same tribes, but we took care of each other. We are born of community. And when we let white supremacy, when we let them divide us or separate us, that's when we're at our weakest, right? And they know this because we are born of community. And that has really, like, my mother used to say very similar things, but just that image, like that image of us, hot, sweaty, chained in the bowels of slave ships, just taking care of each other, helping each other to survive. That is who we are. And no one can ever take that away from me. Nobody will ever be able to separate me from my people. Like on TikTok, on Twitter, a lot of times these white racists, their nickname for, derogatory name for Black women is like Shaniqua. And I'm like, why do you think that I think that I'm better than anybody named Shaniqua? Like, that's what you don't understand, because that's not who you are. We are community. There is nothing. So when we stand together, that is the thing that gets me through the day. People ask me, how can I do this work? Right? We aren't funded. My entire staff works for free. And think of everything we have been able to build, because these are specifically, a lot of them, Black women, Latinx, our white guy, Gregory Zide, who's like my second, Manon de Reaper, Jasmine, like everybody who works with us. It's the sweat equity, because that, and I want to say something for Roni, for anybody listening, and I understand we do all want to get paid. But I would also say this. When I did Dark Girls, we had no money. Like, people are like, oh, you worked for Bill Duke. Yeah, but Bill and Chan were funding it, right? I got buy yourself something nice money, even after it got distributed. That was it. Like that was it. But it's also where I get my NAACP Image Award nomination. That movie is still taught around the world today. Our inroads to the UK, to Canada, to making sure those women are taken care of in our mentorship program, all of that is on the backs of Dark Girls. So I want people to understand that sometimes you just got to shoot your shot, believe in somebody, and it will take you. Dark Girls has taken me places that I could not have imagined. And for Bill Duke, who's about to turn 81, thank you, Papa Duke, because my organization stands on your shoulders.
Mm-hmm. So I have a question, because one of my favorite people is Byron Allen. And you talk, and it's interesting that you talked about community, because I wrote his name down like 15 minutes ago. And then you talk about community, because I see the things that he is looking to do. And with him, it's all about, us and putting us on, and us having our own. So how, and I'm just throwing this out there, how do you think us as Black creatives would be able to get to someone such as a Byron Allen or someone of that ilk to say, hey, this is what's going on? I'm sure you see it, because you've talked about it. The Tylers of the world. How do we get them to be more on board and funding more projects where people of color are the actual heads? How do you guys think that we can actually do that?
So this is what I will say. Early in my process, there were some key people that I was definitely trying to get to with the same idea. right? We need help. This is what's happening. This is what we bring to the table. So in no way was I coming with my two hands swinging. And what I found was that was a waste of my time. My time was better spent figuring out how I could do the best that I could with what I had. The trying to get to the people who I believed needed to hear my message just was a waste of my energy. When I started to do my thing and focus on what I could do with what I had, the people came to look for me. Right? And they were like, hey, we hear you're the first. We hear you're doing this. Oh, that's wonderful. And at that moment, I really realized what a waste of my time and energy that was. But that again was that wanting to get permission, that wanting to have people help me because I felt I couldn't do it on my own. And I could have still been waiting 5.5 years later to have those conversations, to get into those rooms, to be heard. So I don't think that is a useful. If you can, that's great, but that you shouldn't wake up in the morning trying to say, I need to talk to Tyler Perry. I have to get to him with this project, and if I don't, and spend months and months and months and years trying to get it in front of these people. That's why Roni's doing her own thing, and eventually they will come. If you build it, they will come, because what happens is the thing that you build becomes something they need. And then it sort of levels the playing field in that regard.
I agree. I totally agree. I have the same mindset. Well, I'm just gonna focus, and when they come, they come. I will say, Tyler keeps taking our actors, and I always joke that way because our past seasons, a couple of our leads are now leads on his shows, and the day before we start filming this season, he cast one of our lead actresses. So remember, I was doing the recast, and so I'm like, Tyler, you coming to get everybody but us. And so I'm like, he's in the vicinity somewhere. He's seeing it.
Here's what I'm going to say. Leave those people to me in this sense. I'm the one who tweets at them when they put out some stupid nonsense. And I'm dead serious about that, because that's who I am. That's who I am as the founder of Women of Color Unite. When Tyler put out that statement from the Toronto International Film Festival about how we need more education and everything, I'm like, no, you're wrong. Because here's what happened. Capitalism insulates people. They believe what other capitalists are telling them because it all works for what? Capitalism. Right? So y'all just leave that to me. Like I'm going to tweet at him. I'm going to be like, look, I can walk down the street and chew gum at the same time. I can say hurrah for you for what you built, and you spouting some goddamn nonsense. I need you to educate yourself, right? What my biggest pet peeve with millionaires and billionaires and so forth and so on, who have made it, right, within our industry, is that they actually don't educate themselves on the stats in our industry. So they're just regurgitating what they hear white people say in those same C-suite spaces with them. So I really need the Tylers of the world to just shut the fuck up. And I'm not afraid to say it, because it does not take away from what he has built. What I don't want him to do is make it more difficult for the Ronis of the world by respouting, by saying that nonsense. Right? Because what he does when he does it is it makes it more difficult. It makes it more difficult for Emelyn. It makes it more difficult for Roni. It makes it more difficult. Does he believe it? He may well believe it. But before you spew that garbage out your mouth, look at the stats, which is why our stats are actually on. And I will tweet at somebody. I will call somebody out, because again, I love my people, but I don't want those who have made it within our industry to then shit on everybody else. That I'm not going to allow, right? Because again, I can say bravo to you to what you built. That doesn't take anything away from it. But why are you getting in the way of other people building as well? So what I need you to do, what I need everybody to do is before you open your mouth, before you put other creatives in your mouth, to find those stats. They're out there. They are out there from us, the Gina Davis Institute, U.S. Annenberg, Hollywood Commission. All of us do statistical analysis, right? All of us can pinpoint fat phobia, colorism, ageism. Like we all do that work. So again, but there is this idea, if you are smart enough to make $1 billion, then you know everything. No, you don't. Right. You knew how to build that, but it doesn't mean that you know everything. So yeah, I just need other people to just keep it out your mouth until you actually know what you're talking about. Because here's the thing, I'm still going to tweet at you, I'm still going to Instagram, I'm still going to do all of that stuff because I need to combat this. And also it's the harm that it does to it's the mental health harm that it does. So if you hear me talking passionately about, and I'm not shitting on Tyler, what I am is I'm trying to negate the mental health damage that is done to people who are actually educated, who have done it, so that they don't leave the entertainment industry, because there's too much talent leaving daily.
Yeah, and you know what? That's an interesting point that you make, because it's a reinforcement. So when you reinforce it, they turn around and say, "Well, see, he said it. It's not us saying it. He said it. Yep. So if he said it, it must be true. It ain't coming from us." Yep. So that is such a valid point, because then, you know, they can live on that excuse. Hey, man, you know, we love to help, but according to Tyler, and you're like, what? Well, he got it from you. Well, I kind of know, but yeah, but you know, he said it. But yeah,
can I just say,
please.
It really saddens me when people like that fall for the okie doke, because that's what it is. So this playbook has been around since we were fighting on plantations to get free. Don't forget, for every day that we were in chains, there was a rebellion, right? And so I don't like it when people fall for the okie doke and they say it with their full chest like it's fact. It isn't. Director X, I think that's his name, just did the same thing at this past Toronto International Film Festival. Like, I need these people to shut the fuck up, because they are spewing white supremacist talking points. And the fact is, there isn't a stat out there that backs them up. There's no statistical data. It's all about their feelings. It's all about whatever it is they went through. Hey, here's what I say. Take that shit to therapy. Not spewing it all over other people. I said what I said.
Beautiful. Ladies, this has been absolutely amazing. What's next for all of you? Because I know y'all got some stuff lined up. So what's next? What's going on? What you got going on?
We're heavy in post right now for Tough Love Atlanta, and we're also working on a treatment that we're in the process for. So still pushing.
Okay, and I can't wait to see it, because as I said, I've seen the behind the scenes, so I'm definitely waiting for the upcoming season to drop. So, ladies, Emelyn, Cheryl, what's going on?
So I have a film that I'm actually shopping around that I also self-funded and shot. So hopefully I will get a deal, because producing is my first love. And you never, you know, when that's your thing, that's your thing. So hopefully that'll be happening soon. I hope to open the business school for artists, but I also am finding that there are things that money cannot buy me. There are doors that even with the money I can't get in. So moving forward, I'm more concerned about power and influence. And so I have some political aspirations.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. I need to come up and pass. Do I need to come up
So
to New
you
York
heard
and
it
pass
here
out some
first.
flyers? Oh, okay. So now when I see you standing up there taking the oath, I'm going to be like, I'm going to show you the podcast where she
Yes,
said she,
yes,
okay. And you heard
yes.
it here. Wow. That is absolutely exciting. Wow. 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 That's awesome. Miss Bedford.
Talk about be the change you want to see. God
Hey.
damn, Emelyn. And I, as woke, you can't endorse, obviously, because we're a 501c3, but I can. And also, Emelyn, I do want to talk to you because we have done a festival, Women of Color in Horror, and we did it in Los Angeles, and maybe we should redo it. And it was actually hella successful. So maybe we come to New York and
We
do it.
host more film festivals than any other theater in New York City, even though we only have one screen, because we're also the only filmmaker-owned theater. So, but yeah,
Wow.
bring it to Brooklyn.
Yes. Also, I keep saying that I'm going to come to New York, Atlanta, and Chicago because I have so many mentors there. Toronto and London. One of these days we'll have enough funding that I can do that. But I digress because my credit cards are kind of full right now after the strikes. What am I working on? Well, Start With 8, is coming back, so I'm really excited about that. We've had so much success. Like, people have gotten their WGA cards, they've gotten their projects funded, they've gotten their actually, I think one of our members got their project funded through Byron Allen's company. Like,
Oh,
it's
wow.
yes, yeah. So Start With 8 is hella successful. You can go to startwith8.com and look it up. We have our entire list of mentors except those who asked not to be listed. There are a few, but most everybody is there. So we're asking a lot of people to come back to do it again. And basically what we ask are these mentors to do one substantial thing for 8 women of color. And those women tell us what it is you need. Each person gets 2 mentors because you never know. Sometimes people are full of shit. So I said what I said. So we hope that they get at least 1. Sometimes they're lucky to get 2. I play the odds. But the big thing for us is that, so not only can we obviously be a fiscal sponsor, and I really want to give all credit to Gregory Zide. So we had this idea that Woke You could actually be a nonprofit production company. And so thousands and thousands of dollars later, a 28-page contract that is literally a work of art. And basically, we took nonprofit production companies from Australia, the UK, Canada, because those are actually funded by their government, which is why they can do it. We don't have that kind of funding, but we really looked at those contracts, our tax codes, worked with a couple of Black female attorneys, including Tony Y. Long, our attorney, and came up with a beautiful work of art that we can be a nonprofit production company. And so as a producer, like I said, that I'm banging your head against a brick wall to get funding. I'm like, yeah. So I'm going to go out. I'm going to do what I do best. I have a 30-year career as a producer. Drew Wilson sits on our board. Drew was the CFO of RLJ Entertainment. They distributed a bunch of my movies. Like, Drew's like, your movies made us a hell of money. I was like, great, because I didn't see it, but thank you, Drew. Anyway, Drew is now the CFO and COO of SoundCloud. So we knew that we could do it. We actually really started a couple of years ago, but in having Start With 8 and various things that happened. But this year we've decided to really put a push on. So I'm working on a couple of different productions. One is a co-production. One is ours specifically, #VoteLove. And somebody we both know and love, Floyd, has just come on as an EP of that, Miss Brenda Gilbert. Brenda is our EP right now
Oh, that
for
is
that.
awesome.
I'm working on Divas with Disabilities, which they have Divas in the City, highlighting all these wonderful women of color with disabilities, just living their best life across, all jobs, all spectrums. And most of our content is very similar to that, where we are highlighting in some way, shape, and or form marginalized people, We're not doing trauma stories. Not that there's anything necessarily wrong with that. It's just that right after BLM and Stop Asian Hate and all of these things that Hollywood said that they would do better. And I was actually having a conversation with Twinkie at the time, Twinkie Tracy Bird. And I was talking about how I was out there like shopping, but people didn't really want these very sort of joyful stories, right? These rom-coms with us, these, celebratory, just a day in a life and people just happen to be marginalized. And I was telling Twinkie that I had a conversation with a sociologist. And she said to me, and I'm very lucky because I surround myself with all of these educators in some way, shape, and or form who help to give me perspective because it can be very daunting. And she said, "Oh, Cheryl, it's because they think that they own our trauma. Our joy is in spite of them." So when you tend to see a lot of stories that are funded regarding our trauma, it's because the system as is thinks that our trauma belongs to them and our joy is in spite of them. When you put that in perspective for even what Emelyn is doing or Roni is doing, it all makes a lot more sense, doesn't it? Like they want Emelyn to have the trauma of having credit. Like people don't realize how all of these things work like this to quote unquote keep us in our place. And it's and shout out to Roni and Emelyn, who in spite of that are doing their thing because the entire system is set up in some way, shape, and or form for us to fail. So shout out to everybody who does that. My one thing is, because I read studies from the National Institute of Health, please take care of your mental health. Please, because I know the damage that it is doing statistically. So I want everybody to take care of it. But Emelyn was like, when I just said that, she was like, damn. Yeah,
I wrote that down.
That gave me chills. Wow.
That's
I'll
a
be on a
sweet
different podcast going, something that Cheryl
I'm telling everybody this.
We're going to put that on the shirt.
Here's the thing, though. It actually works when you tell people this, because here's the one thing, and Gregory was the one who made this he says it's really ignorance. Like, I didn't go to school with any, I don't know any, I don't live with any, I don't what does he call it? It'll come to me. But so there are people who are so invested in the system that they don't realize it. And when you have these conversations, it actually can shift their perspective, right? It saying these things to them makes them go, oh shit. Because when you are just raised within a system, you just think that system is okay, right? Because it works for you. Now, you may understand racism, sexism, and all the isms and the phobias and so forth and so on intellectually, but because it doesn't affect you on a day-to-day basis, and you don't go to school with any, you don't live near any, you don't play golf with any, right? You're not confronted with it. So let me just say this. Everything that I have said here, I actually say to people when I am on the other side of the door, when we are having meetings, which is why Start with 8 has worked, which is why, because people are like, damn, like they don't even realize it. And so when you tell them, they don't realize why they're necessarily green lighting these trauma stories, right? They know what's coming from above and so forth and so on, because it's the system. So if the system is like, well, these are what we like and so forth and so on, they're not necessarily thinking of why, how deep does it go? Because it's the system. So for everybody who is listening to me, take everything I said and walk into that room. And I hope it empowers you, because here's what I can tell you. Saying everything that I have said in those rooms has actually made a difference. 12% of our membership have gotten jobs. And we did that shit on no money. We did it by me and my staff walking in and having these difficult conversations. Because the way that I start off is change only happens in the uncomfortable. So here's the thing. I'm about to make you really uncomfortable, and it's okay, because this is the only place where change happens.
And that is so true. That is so true, because growth is painful. If it ain't painful, you ain't growing. You're comfortable. You've kind of hit a plateau. And because I look at, I work out a lot, when I'm working on muscle and I'm like, ow, that hurts. That's a good thing, because I've torn that muscle down, and in order for it to grow, it has to rebuild itself. And that hurts. But this has been absolutely amazing. So where can everyone find you guys? Because we cannot leave without people knowing where to come and look for you.
I'm on Instagram under Mrs. Roni Davis.
Oh, you know what? And your little ones are getting so big. Oh my gosh. I'm like,
It's happening
wow.
fast. I
Wow.
know.
It's like, like warp speed. It's so crazy.
Big and busy.
Yeah. So Emelyn, where can people find you?
StewartCinema.com is our website, and all the info is there, and people can reach me. They can email me from the website. It's StewartCinema.com.
Miss Bedford, where can people find you?
So they can follow Woke You. So it's WOCUnite .org or org on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. I don't actually I don't run our social media accounts.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm sweating because I turned off the AC and it's hot in Los Angeles in my apartment, and I'm like, I'm sweating. Okay. So if you're seeing me like this, it's because I'm sweating. So you can follow our social media accounts. I don't run it. Me specifically, I'm Cheryl, CHERYL _CLBP. That's across all platforms. And yeah, you can see me talk my shit all the time, because that's what I do.
Now, and let me say something. I had the privilege of being a mentor for Start With A, and it was one of the greatest endeavors that I ever embarked upon. It was a privilege for me, because I met some absolutely dynamic and amazing young ladies who I all call my daughters now. They are all my kids. And we keep in constant contact with each other. I do not give my phone number out, but they have my number and they can call me at any time, because what Cheryl has done with that particular organization, it is absolutely amazing. And I actually happened to be on a panel the other night, Roadmap Writers, and I met Bianca Sims,
Yes.
phenomenal young lady who also happened to be a Start With A mentor. So anyone under the sound of my voice who's listening now or will be listening in the future, if you are in this industry and you are truly trying to make a change, and you're sitting there saying to yourself, I don't know what I can do, the one thing that I would highly recommend is becoming a mentor for Start With A, because you have something that you can offer these young ladies. And trust me when I tell you, it helps and they thrive, because they see that someone is willing to invest the most important thing that they have, which is their time. And when you are willing to invest your time, you see these young ladies are flourishing. It is just, I don't want to get emotional, but these women that I had the privilege of mentoring, they are flourishing. I follow them on Instagram, and it is just an amazing thing to see. So if you want to get paid without actually getting paid, become a mentor for Start With A, because you will get paid, kind of what you alluded to, Emelyn. You will get paid so much more than money. You will get paid so much more than money. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining myself, Roni Davis, Emelyn Stewart, and the incomparable Cheryl L. Bedford on a conversation with. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this conversation. Please listen to it 2, 3, 4 times, because you will definitely learn something every time you listen to this. And if you like the podcast, please share it with your friends. Subscribe on Apple, subscribe on YouTube, because the algorithm is a mother. And the more people that subscribe and comment, it really helps out the show. But you can find me on all social media platforms under Floyd Marshall Jr. If you just Google that, everything comes up. But again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on such an important topic. And we are definitely going to do this again, because this is something that we need to talk about. Because as Emelyn said, learning the business and just learning how things work, as all of these young ladies have talked about tonight, learning how things work really helps you on your journey. And with that, I will end it as I always do. Love this like a hobby, but above all else, treat it like a business. Everyone have an absolutely phenomenal night. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you. Bye.